Wewe tu.
I'm not a child.
Fuatana tu, wakuchukue tena.
Dad, just let a girl breathe.
Yani, hapa kwangu ndio ulikuwa unajigamba kwa simu, you are very busy.
Just greeting Sky. You know that she's an old friend.
Hautampata popote. Hebu, get out of my compound.
When have you been the type to fall back?
When your life is on the line, you have to, Mom.
You're now thinking.
Pole nimekaa sana kufikiria.
Who abducted my daughter?
What?
You are protecting the abductors.
I don't want to start digging covered bruises.
Nobody touches my blood.
I knew I married you for a reason.
Kitu naitwa linganisa. Hii mtu meusia watu wengi sana, akiusa yeye natoroka.
Na hata ukiangalia hii kwanza amebit kabisa, hii amefanya kazi mpaka
nikieleza hii mahakama kuhusu vile ulikuwa umelewa na ukaushiwa viatu mbaya na mtu, unakuja kusema ni mimi. Nitakuwa nasema urongo, ndugu yangu.
Urongo Sauri, mimi nimemwambia wewe misuri.
Na viatu nilikuhusia? Hapana. So, kielele ni ya nini unaleta hapa kwa
kelele?
Lakini ukiwa mrefi, utachuache kiatu mzuri na kiatu mbaya.
Ndio hiyo unateka advantage ile watu unahusia sababu wamelewa.
Na ni kwa nini uliuza viatu ukijua ni vya mguu moja tena hata havifanani? Sasa
forgive your manners. Forgive your manners, mheshimiwa.
Nakwambia ongea lugha ya taifa, wacha kujifanya unajua Kiingereza na haujui.
Take over your job? And the answer is, it depends on your job. That is the conversation that is taking place in the world today as artificial intelligence becomes commonplace in the boardroom and even in the dining room. And humans are worried that the machines that they created are likely to render them jobless. And this is coming at a time when Kenya is launching its AI strategy for the next 5 years, a critical document that is going to guide the development of artificial intelligence in this country. And why is this important? Because Kenya is the 16th country in Africa to launch this critical document and the 66th in the world. What is in that document? And what is the government saying about the artificial intelligence strategy for the 2025 to 2030. Good evening and thank you very much for joining us. You're right on time for the most comprehensive bulletin on the eastern seaboard of Africa. My name is O'Brien Kimani. We have the latest from the world of business, sports and even politics. I'll be giving you more details, and that is after the highlights.
Na shida tu, kila mtu anatuma, mwingine anatuma akichapwa, mwingine anatuma amekatakatwa. Sasa mimi naomba wenye wanatumia mitandao, tafadhali waache kueneza venye Kabiru amekufa, Kabiru ako hai na Kabiru ataishi.
Rubbing salt into a wounded heart. The mother of Kenyan policeman killed in Haiti appeals for a stop to the sharing of flogging images of her slain son. Tuning the mountain. DP Kithure Kindiki inspects project in Murang'a ahead of his boss tour of the Mount Kenya region. Okambani's Day at State House. President Ruto hosts leaders from 3 lower eastern counties at State House. And interviews begin for the 105 shortlisted candidates for the IEBC commissioners, among them a couple. Many thanks for joining us, and Wangeshin is our sign language interpreter. And of course, we're in the company of great cameramen, producers, and directors. My name is O'Brien Kimani. At O'Brien Kimani is my ex-handle, and at KBC Channel 1 is our national handle. A couple is among those seeking to become members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. In the interviews for the commissioners that began early Thursday, Abduba Molu from Isiolo, however, said he does not expect to be considered for the job together with his spouse, Rukia Atikia. Former Wajir Deputy Governor Abdi Nafid Yaru also faced the Nelson Makanda-led selection panel, and a total of 105 shortlisted candidates will be interviewed in the exercise that ends on the 25th of April.
After concluding the interviews for the position of chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC selection panel on Thursday kicked off the interviews for candidates seeking to join the electoral body as commissioners. The interviews for the 105 shortlisted candidates will run until 25th of April. A trained teacher by profession, Abduba Molu from Isiolo County was the first to face the Nelson Makanda-led panel. Surprisingly, his wife has also been shortlisted for the job and is yet to face the panel.
Were you aware that your wife was applying?
We both applied because we both felt we can serve Kenya in this role, and we have the requisite experiences.
While asserting that both of them are qualified, Molu, however, said he doesn't expect both of them to be selected.
If she was not related to me, I wouldn't expect that you would still select her and select me at the same time, considering this has to have the face of Kenya.
We have Abdi Hakim Adan.
Another candidate, Abdi Hakim Abdi, a 36-year-old lawyer from Wajir County, was tasked to explain how he would change his fellow youth's attitude towards elections.
The voter registration process, the staffing process of the commission itself, inviting them as stakeholder partners in the forums relating to election processes.
Former Wajir Deputy Governor Abdi Hafid Yaro also appeared before the panel and vowed to prioritize public interest.
In Islam, one of the main etiquettes is that you should never wrong somebody. The prayer of the person who has been wronged has no veil between it to God. If that person raises his hand to God and says, "Oh God, this person has wronged me, let this happen to you, it will happen to you."
Also interviewed were Abdi Nur Hussein from Mandera and Abraham Langat from Nakuru County. Give us Minor Prime Edition.
Many thanks, give us on Minor, and remember those interviews continue tomorrow. President William Ruto on Thursday hosted leaders from Machakos, Kitui and Makueni counties at State House, Nairobi. The head of state urged the leaders to embrace collaborative leadership despite their political differences. The meeting was attended by, among others, National Security Advisor Monica Juma, Labour Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua, PS nominee for Aviation and Aerospace Development Teresi Ambaika, and Livestock Principal Secretary Jonathan Mweke. Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki on Thursday inspected ongoing development project in Murang'a County ahead of President William Ruto's tour in the region next week. Speaking at Mathioa constituency after inspecting Gekoi Market, the Professor Kindiki said the President's tour will not be a political exercise but a conscious effort to fulfill his pre-election promises.
Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki observed that construction of Gekoe Market in Mathioya constituency is at 80% completion and will be ready for occupation by traders in the next 1 month. This is one of the various projects that President William Ruto is expected to launch during his developmental tour in Mount Kenya region next week.
Rais ndiye amenituma hapa tukiwa nao waheshimiwa kuhakikisha kwamba zile projects za serikali ambazo zimeanzishwa zinaharakishwa, zinaisha ili mwananchi apate msaada haraka.
Mimi nataka siasa ama maendeleo? Unataka siasa ama maendeleo? Kwa hivyo sisi tuendelee namna hiyo.
The Deputy President assuring the residents of the mountain region that all ongoing development projects in the region will not stall.
Tumehakikisha kwamba sehemu zote za Murang'a County ambazo hazina stima zitawekwa stima, na jambo la tatu ni kwamba vile tumeendelea na hii mjengo, tumeendelea na barabara zetu ikiwemo barabara ya Maumau ambayo sasa imerejelewa, contractor amerudishwa, pesa imepatikana, ile ilikuwa imepotea. Kwa hivyo tunataka tuseme ya kwamba pia rais atembee hapa.
Professor Kindiki said national unity is a catalyst for economic and social transformation and implored on Mount Kenya residents to embrace other communities politically.
Na watu siku hizi wamechanganyika. Kuna watu kutoka sehemu hii wako kule Lodwar, wengine wako Kisumu, wengine wako Lamu, wengine wako kila mahali. Hatungetaka kujifanya ati sisi tuongee mambo yetu peke yetu alafu tuanze kukejeli ama kuletea hao wengine mambo ya madharau.
Elsewhere in Kiharu constituency, area MP Dindi Nyoro has dismissed attempts by his political nemesis to divert his attention from his development agenda.
Ni gumu sana Mkenya akubuke matamshi ya Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki. Pia ni gumu sana wakubuke Mkenya yeyote kukubuka vile matamshi ya viongozi wetu wa hapo awali. Ile kitu that overrides the test of time is what you do, not what you say. And therefore, even with all the issues that are ongoing in our country politically, sometimes it is also good that we speak through action, we speak through what we are doing, kwa sababu yale tunafanya kama kujenga hii barabara ama shule, hakuna matamshi ambayo inaweza fanya kazi kama hiyo.
Vishoke Washira, Prime Edition.
Petitions for clemency by reformed offenders will be handled in a more transparent manner to ensure fairness. The Power of Mercy Advisory Committee, POMAC, 2024-2028 strategic plan also endeavors to enhance efficiency in addressing petitions for clemency. The committee is also urging the public to embrace reformed offenders to facilitate their rehabilitation and hence foster a more equitable society.
Upon the recommendations of the Power of Mercy Advisory Committee, President William Ruto has, in his time, pardoned 37 long-term convicts, commuted the death sentence imposed on 662 capital offenders, and released 5,061 short-term inmates who were serving sentence of 6 months and below. Joseph Kinyua, who had been convicted for 27 years, is one such beneficiary of the President's Power of Mercy reprieve.
Mine is to simply urge the President to forgive those behind bars, those who have served quite long.
POMAC has launched its 2024-2028 strategic plan that intends to offer reformed offenders a clearer and more accessible path to clemency and societal integration.
Kwanza kabisa tunataka tuhakikisha kwamba pardoning au kusamea wale wamefungwa inafanywa kwa njia wazi.
The plan emphasizes on 4 key strategic objectives of enhancing efficiency in the petition process, strengthening institutional capacity, enhancing stakeholders' engagement, and promoting transparency in processing mercy petition.
Do all this, and we implement all this,
there will be two results. Deserving convicted criminal offenders will benefit.
Doreen Arange for Prime Edition.
Tonight, a mother is pleading with social media users to stop sharing disturbing footage of her deceased son being tormented by an alleged gang in Haiti. Jacinta Wanjiku Kafiro, the mother of the slain Kenyan police officer Benedict Kafiro, says her family is distraught by the death of their son, who was part of the contingent in Haiti. We caution that the parts of the following report may be a bit disturbing.
Yaku, kijana mdogo, mimi ni single mother. He's the only hope for my family.
Jacinta Wanjiku Kabiru is mourning her son. Visibly shaken, she is trying to come to terms with the devastating reality that Officer Benedict Kabiru is not only deceased, but his image has been shared and reshared on the internet.
Sasa mimi naomba wenye wanatumia mitandao, tafadhali waache kueneza venye Kabiru amekufa, Kabiru ako hai, na Kabiru ataishi, na Kabiru ataendelea.
Benedict was almost done with his mission. Jacinta had planned to talk with her son on Wednesday, only to receive the disturbing footage of her son's body being slapped by people believed to be members of the dreaded Haitian gang. She was informed by the government that Benedict and his team were ambushed by the gang during an operation and had gone missing, but rescue plans were underway to get him back.
Wote walikuja jana asubuhi kuleta ripoti Kafiru amepotea. Lakini hawajaleta ripoti Kafiru amekufa. Kafiru amepotea, they were ambushed, akapotea, wakati walirudi yeye ndiye ajarudi.
Benedict's wife Miriam Watima says she last talked to him on Tuesday.
Tukiongea tu story ya nyumbani, ile tu ya nyumbani kuniambia ako poa nini. Hatukuwa na story nyingi. Ya kuniambia tu ako poa, kazi anaendelea vizuri.
Kabiru, who hails from Thamanda village, Sigona Ward, Kikuyu constituency, Kiambu County, was part of the multinational security support team working alongside Haitian forces. His death comes just 1 month after another Kenyan police officer, Samuel Tompoyo, was killed during an anti-gang operation in the Abonate region on February 23rd, the year 2025. Michael Mondiga for Prime Edition.
We do hope that Kafiro will be found alive and safe. Well, the National Assembly Public Investment Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture now want the new Nyayo T-Zones Corporation Managing Director David Chepkwony to be proactive in repossessing grabbed lands belonging to the state agency. The MPs have also expressed their dissatisfaction with the efforts put in by the previous management of Nyayo T-Zones to acquire ownership documents for the compensations land designated for the tea farming. The managing director informed the committee that the corporation is developing a buffer zone policy that will secure over 12,000 acres of land currently hosted by the Kenya Forest Service lands.
For an audit report to continuously pick an item across several years. It tells you from 2017, it has gone through the PIC report. It has not happened. It's now, entering another PIC committee. There'll be a report out of this. We tell you go and occupy this land. Then you start stories again.
If there is a contract between an agreement between yourself and the forest department, can we have it? Can we strengthen it? And if it's not there, the committee that will empower you to have it is this one. So that we can invite the CS in charge of forestry, we invite the CS in charge of agriculture, push them to the wall until they contract you, the two of you, so that you say, this is my land. You can now stand as somebody, an organization with that right.
I totally agree with the committee. Some of the actions that we've taken do not seem to be serious enough to handle that. And Chair and honorable members, there is something we are working on currently, which we've said we are establishing a buffer zones policy, which will strengthen our presence in the areas where we operate.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba says the ministry will formulate guidelines on the new university funding model in the next 2 weeks as directed by the Court of Appeal. Ogamba said the regulations will first be subjected to stakeholders' participation before finally being gazetted. The Cabinet Secretary, who was at Homa Bay High School for the National Education Day, lauded the appellate court ruling which reinstated the funding model, adding that students' concerns will be taken into consideration in the new rules.
I will not say much. I know Kaloma, Our Excellency Governor Gladys Wanga.
This clarity now means that we'll carry on with the implementation of the funding framework with the necessary modifications that have resulted from the National Committee on the Review of the Model. As directed by the Court of Appeal, we will publicize the framework to the current and incoming students within the next 14 days. The transformative student-centered funding model for higher education was designed to address the financial challenges that were threatening the sustainability of our universities.
Nairobi woman representative Esther Passaris is proposing a sanitary levy to cushion millions of girls and women who cannot afford it. Speaking during the launch of a menstrual health drive in Nairobi, Passaris reiterated that lack of access to sanitary products coupled with inadequate education and infrastructure perpetuate a cycle of poverty and inequality.
With over 20 million women and girls in Kenya facing a myriad of menstrual health challenges, various stakeholders spearheaded by Health Aid Assistance International Organization (HAI) have kicked off a menstrual health drive aimed to mobilize resources for not only purchasing sanitary towels but also menstrual health education programs. This comes as statistics indicate that thousands of girls are forced to miss school during their menstrual cycle.
I've taken more than 700 girls back to school. And I'm pleased that 31 of them have gone to university. That is a great, great pleasure.
We envision a future where every girl and woman in Kenya has access to the information and resources they need to manage their menstruation with dignity and confidence.
However, HAI CEO Joanna Mara emphasized the need for concerted effort to address the menace.
It is not a choice. It's a natural biological process. Yet the way society responds to it determines whether a girl continues her education or drops out, whether a woman maintains her dignity or faces unnecessary hardship. We have the power to change the narrative.
And for Passaris and other legislators who graced the occasion, there's need for sanitary levy to help sort out the matter.
It's just for sanitary towels like we have a tax for housing. Kenyans will be the first to say, no, we don't want. But just to provide every woman in this country with a sanitary towel, the way men get condoms, we need to have a tax for sanitary towels.
Kasichana Masha, Prime Edition.
Look, you're watching the Prime Edition live from Broadcasting House. This is our national headquarters. We still have more lined up for you from business to sports and, of course, from the political scenes. O'Brien Kimani is my name. We're taking a short break and thereafter we're back with more stories.
Town Express! 20, town! Okay, town, bado haijajaa dere watu wengine 7.
Kwani wazako si ungekulia kwenu. Sasa umetoka wapi? Mimi sitaki mahindi leo.
Wewe unanishia mkate.
Siagushi mkate fubi.
Wewe ongea bora usiguze mkate yangu.
Usishike hivi. Unataka kukulia huko mbali na mimi. Si mimi nakulamiwa ni wewe.
Donda, gari imejaa na bado unasema watu waingie. Tuambie ndare hapo apunguze wimbo. Niongea na simu hapa.
Hakuna volume inapunguzwa hapa. Kama unataka kuendesha gari yako, enda dial *570# option ya 3. Watu wanaendesha magari hapa nje na wewe bado unapiga nyenyenye kwa matatu.
Option 3,
unalipa ama unasuka?
Comfort yako iko kwa *570# option 3. Master Genio moja safi, reliable, modern safety and security features. Cheza mara kadhaa ujaze entry ticket zako kwenye draw ili uimarishe uwezo wa kushinda. Mshindi tunamtangaza 27th of April na gari tutakufikishia.
Omera unaenda ama wewe?
Mimi siendi na madri, nishainuka na star 570 hash.
Inuka na Genio kwa star 570 hash option 3.
Asante.
We heard you. Tax amnesty is back. Kenya Revenue Authority is giving 100% relief on interest, penalties and fines for tax debts incurred up to 31st December 2023. Don't miss out. Take action now by settling your outstanding tax debt through easy-to-pay installments by 30th June 2025 and watch those penalties and fines for tax debts disappear. It's now or never to set your tax records right. Take advantage of the tax amnesty today. Terms and conditions apply. Kenya Revenue Authority, tulipe ushuru tu.
You're watching the Prime Edition. Welcome to the bulletin. Hundreds of patients at the Makueni Referral Hospital in Wote Town are suffering due to delays in medical services as clinical officers continue to stay away from work. The strike has caused significant disruptions to healthcare delivery. Today, the clinical officers organized a public demonstration protesting unresolved issues despite numerous attempts to resolve the matter through dialogue with the county government.
The officers' frustrations have been mounting, and their decision to take to the streets reflects the magnitude of their grievances. Efforts by the protesters to seek audience with Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. were thwarted by security officers manning the governor's office. Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, George Gibore, accused the county government of failing to address their concerns, including the promotion of clinical officers by established career progression guidelines.
Leo hii huyu gavana aliyekuja ambaye ni Mutula Kilonzo ambaye ni mwanasheria amekiuka sheria, anaandika watu chini ya vile ambavyo inakubalika kisheria na anawalipa malipo duni na anawalazimisha kufanya kazi. Na hiyo tunaona kwamba si sawa.
He also accused the Makueni County of not adhering to the Public Service Commission career guidelines. Health Chief Officer Harvey Mbithi, however, denied the allegation, stating that the county promoted 510 clinical officers by January 2024, with interviews ongoing currently for different cadres of health officers. He said the issues of UHC staff being confirmed on permanent basis is being addressed at the national level.
These are not issues that are affecting Makueni County alone. These are basically issues that affect clinical officers nationally. And so for that matter, we are waiting for national government to address these issues.
He pledged to collaborate closely with union leaders to ensure that the dispute does not further compromise patients' care, emphasizing the importance of restoring normal operations at the hospital for the benefit of the public. Maria Ambo reporting for the Prime Edition.
The minority Nubian community in Kisumu County is appealing to the government to hasten the process and subsequent issuance of title deeds, a move they say will save their years of suffering brought about by the contentious land pitting them against the Kenya Railways Corporation. The appeal follows a ruling by the appellate court in Kisumu, which confirmed the community as the licensed occupant of the vast contentious land to which the Kenya Railways Corporation is equally laying claim. Wycliffe Okech with more details.
Members of this community here at Kibos in Kisumu back in 2021 when their houses were brought down by a multi-agency of various government institutions at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Their arbitrary eviction from the vast piece of land they have called home since birth cost them what they describe today as inhumane treatment.
Hiyo siku kwanza ilikuwa ni siku ya mvua, alafu stima imekatwa, alafu tear gas inapigwa huku. Mapolisi walikuwa wengi, in fact mapolisi walikuwa wengi kushinda wananchi.
They immediately lodged a case at the court seeking their recognition as the bona fide owners of the over 100 acres of land, as well as compensation for their property damaged during the eviction. The High Court ruled in their favor, but the Kenya Railways Corporation would later appeal the ruling. Fast forward, the Court of Appeal upheld the High Court ruling, further confirming that the Nubian community, which was settled at the contentious land by the colonial government more than 80 years ago, are there legally.
There is a judgment that has actually confirmed the judgment of, upheld the judgment of the High Court of the Environment and Land Court, indicating that this particular community are still the licensees of that land.
Following the latest landmark determination by the appellate court, they now want the government to hasten the processing of title deeds to cement their ownership of the land, to which Kenya Railways Corporation is equally laying claim.
So tunaomba serikali watupatie hati miliki na any development, any services ambayo inafaa tupate kama wa Kenya.
And while they push for compensation for the damage they suffered following the evictions, the community is at the same time appealing for assistance by well-wishers to help rebuild their lives. Despite the troubles that they have had to endure all the while, now the Nubian community here at Kibos believes that once they are compensated and issued with the title deeds, then they will be able to fend for themselves and lead a normal life. Reporting for Channel 1 from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe. Okay.
Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has declared a full-scale security operation at Mokokodo Forest to flush out bandits in Laikipia County. The CS also announced the establishment of a new police command, the second operation Maliza Uhalifu OMU in Laikipia County. Details of these and more stories next in our county roundup.
According to the Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, the second phase of Operation Maliza Uhalifu will have its command center in Kirimon in Laikipia County, tasked to deal with the emerging crimes in the troubled areas, restore peace and normalcy. The new operation will cover Samburu, Laikipia, Isiolo and parts of Meru counties.
OMU as established will continue operating, but we will have a base here and we have another base in Chemalingot. That way, we are going to concentrate now on the problems that we have and problematic areas that we have in this area.
In Kirinyaga County, hundreds of residents from Ndia constituency will no longer need to travel to Kerugoya town to access essential government services.
We've also been trying to sensitize them on the need to embrace a social health insurance fund as one of the government main agenda of ensuring that we have a healthy nation.
In Kiambu, Githunguri Member of Parliament Gathoni wa Muchomba has challenged coffee farmers to address bad governance in their societies to reap maximum benefits from their efforts.
Kuna watu kazi yao ni kukula pesa ya wakulima. Nikasema nitaingia kwa hizo coffee factories. Saa hii last week uliniona kwa news nikisema wakulima wangu walitoka from 11 shillings tukafungua mili yetu ambayo inasiaga kahawa yetu, na hiyo mili ilikuwa imefungwa 27 years kwa sababu ya siasa.
Elsewhere, residents of Mbeere North and surrounding areas in Embu County are in high spirits following the nomination of their Member of Parliament Geoffrey Ruku as the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Human Capital and Special Programs.
Tunashukuru Rais kwa kuteua MP wetu Geoffrey Keringa Ruku akiwa waziri, na tunaamini ya kwamba hii sekta yenye ametumwa inaleta nafasi mingi, inaleta kazi na inaleta opportunities, na pia inafungua ili hii area yetu ya Mbeere North yenye imekuwa imetengwa sana.
Meanwhile, Machakos Governor Wavinya Ndeti has inaugurated members of the Machakos Level 5 Hospital Management Board and challenged the office bearers to move with speed to deal with the prevailing challenges in the healthcare sector.
The board will be instrumental in strengthening our efforts to streamlining provision of healthcare service amid growing pressure and demand for quality services.
In Busia County, efforts are underway to address the Jiga menace in Western Kenya.
Tunaelewa kwamba swala hili la vimelea ni changamoto kubwa sana katika shughuli za masomo. Utapata kwamba wanafunzi wengi wanakosa shule, wengine wanaibika jinsi wanatembea, na vile vile inawafanya wasiweze kutulia darasani.
Elsewhere, questions have been raised about the heavy presence of armed police officers at Ngoliba Trading Center in Thika, where Thika Member of Parliament Alice Ng'ang'a and County Government of Kiambu are wrangling over the market's construction.
Soko imebomolewa ilikuwa inatusaidia kama wakaaji.
Baraza zote zikiitanwa tulikuwa tunaenda mahali pale. Vikundi za wamama tulikuwa tunaenda mahali pale. Saizi hatuna pa kwenda.
Finally, a section of youth from Turkana County have been informed about the job opportunities available both locally and internationally.
We are here to learn how to export our expertise now as professionals from Turkana to other parts of Kenya and as well as to the world.
They have received education on the evolving trends in the labor market. For Prime Edition, I'm Christine Matunda.
Time now for the latest in the world of sports. The world of business. Sports is coming up later on. You are spending more time in darkness due to increased demand for electricity, while generation has remained constant after a moratorium was placed on new power purchase agreement. Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority Director General Dr. Daniel Kipto says Kenya is experiencing 9 hours of blackouts monthly, as opposed to the recommended 3.2 hours due to below power idle capacity.
The peak electricity demand in Kenya has risen to 2,316 megawatts, which was recorded last month. The rising demand for electricity has pushed the idle capacity to just 4 megawatts against the recommended 10% of peak demand, which in this case is 232 megawatts.
When we have 2,316 megawatts of peak demand in the evening, and yet you have sometimes 2,320 megawatts, only with a 4 megawatts reserve margin, it tells you that we are doing very badly as a country. The rule of thumb is we need to have at least minimum 10% above what is our peak demand to have that buffer. But today, as Kenya, we don't have that buffer. And it's as a result.
In the 6 months period between July and December 2024, Kenyans were in the dark on average 9 hours per month, which is nearly thrice higher than the recommended duration.
Actually, you notice in around May 24 to April, actually March to April, around May again, that indicator was below performance. Basically, there's a time last year we actually had a lot of outages, and that could impacted on the statistics.
This is a concern for policymakers who are keen to have electricity supply increased by onboarding more generators. Currently, electricity imports are making up for the low generation.
Again, as a country, if you look inward as a Kenyan, the question is, are we energy secure as a country? So we don't want to over-rely on our neighbors. We want to be able to develop our own capacity.
Electricity imports account for 10% of the total electricity between July and December last year, up from 6% during a similar period in 2023. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, are you worried about machines taking over your job? Well, Kenya plans to integrate artificial intelligence in all sectors of the economy in a 5-year AI strategy that was launched today. The implementation of the national AI strategy will cost more than 150 billion shillings, where Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary William Kabogo says the government will set up a team that will help in the uptake of the technology in key sectors of the economy. Kabogo has also allayed fears of job losses due to widespread deployment of the technology.
According to Kenya's 2022-2032 National Digital Master Plan, AI is referenced as a tool for driving innovation and entrepreneurship, highlighting the importance of a national strategy on AI. After more than 2 years of burning the midnight oil,
AI 2025 to 2030.
The Kenya National AI Strategy is now a reality. Speaking during the launch of the strategy, Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary William Kabogo reaffirmed Kenya's comparative advantage as an AI global leader.
The question is not whether to adopt AI, but how we can lead in shaping its trajectory. Kenya must be at the forefront, not just a consumer of AI technology, but also a creator, innovator, and the thought leader.
Kavogo says the strategy taps into tertiary institutions for AI talent mobilization, with the government planning to enact a legislation that will see tech graduates absorbed into ministries as AI officers.
We shall be proposing to get freshers from the universities who have studied economics and AI brought into government, and I'm talking about every ministry.
We believe that digital transformation is not only about innovation and technological advancement, but also about human-centered growth. AI should not be a tool of progress only, but be the foundation for societal transformation.
Currently, however, proponents of the technology say striking a balance between supporting innovation and competition while protecting consumers in the face of the ethical use of AI, particularly regarding data privacy, misinformation and bias, is something legislation will have to consider.
What we are seeing in the space of deep fakes, fake news, misinformation, disinformation and malinformation tells us that even as we take great cognizance of what benefits there are to accrue from artificial intelligence.
The government says the implementation of the 5-year strategy will cost taxpayers 152 billion shillings. Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
At Wanyeri Githaiga, a viewer from near you are saying that the government should come up with proper ways to safeguard job losses. Well, Housing Finance Group has posted at 524.7 million shillings in full-year net profit, representing a 35.2% increase. The profit was mainly powered by 18.5% increase in interest income on loans and advances to 4.8 billion shillings. Despite the increased profit, HF Group has not recommended any dividend payout.
HF Group disbursed 38.9 billion shillings in loans and advances to customers in 2024, representing an increase of 74 million shillings on what was loaned out in 2023. This is perhaps due to a 10.6% increase in non-performing loans that rose to 11.96 billion shillings, which saw the listed financial marginally increasing the loan loss provision to 5.2 billion shillings. Overall, from the disbursed loans and advances, HF Group earned 4.8 billion in interest income, which in addition to earnings from investment in government securities, pushed total interest income up 23.1% to 6.4 billion shillings. The financial booked 1.5 billion shillings in total non-interest income that were mainly from fees and commissions. On the other hand, operating expenses rose 7% to 3.7 billion shillings, mainly on account of higher staff costs. During the year, staff costs increased 16.6% to 1.9 billion shillings. Other notable figures in the financial statement is core capital that increased more than 4 times to 8.7 billion shillings.
Our interest income up 23% and non-funded income up 21%. Now we've kept a good control of costs. So it's a nice, steady growing business.
This helped push the financials' liquidity ratio to 41.8%, up from 24.5% in 2023.
We are quite pleased about what we have released. As you are aware, towards the end of last year, we were able to raise significant capital for the bank. So that should be able to power our growth into the future, and we are excited about the prospects ahead.
In addition, the capital injection helped HF Group comply with a number of minimum statutory ratio requirements, such as core capital to total deposit liabilities, core capital to total risk-weighted assets, and total capital to total risk-weighted assets. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street. Critical issues are going to be discussed. From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words. Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted. We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1. Well, still on financial matters, where Equity Group has posted a 48.8 billion shillings in 2024 full-year profit that was mainly driven by interest income. Total interest income rose 9.3% in 2024 to 170.3 billion shillings. Equity Group has proposed a dividend payout of 4 shillings and 25 cents per share.
Equity Group reduced the net loans and advances to customers by 8% to 819.2 billion shillings, down from 887.4 billion shillings in 2023.
There are 6 shocks concurrently that we are dealing with. But we said it appears shocks is our new way of life, that the path will have shocks. So we have to learn to navigate roads with shocks.
Despite this reduction, Equity Group saw its gross non-performing loans and advances increase from 114.6 billion shillings to 122 billion shillings.
You can relate directly, it's corporate, and it's the corporates that are holding the non-paying.
This prompted the lender to increase the loan loss provision from 42.7 billion shillings in 2023 to 51.7 billion shillings in 2024.
Is 16, so we are 400 basis points lower than the industry. In terms of coverage, coverage is at 71% on cash basis, and the balance up to 103 is covered by credit guarantees.
Total interest income increased by 9.3% to 170.3 billion shillings, while non-interest income increased by 10.7% to 85.1 billion shillings. On the expenses side, higher staff costs and loan loss provision drove the total operating expenses marginally to 133.04 billion shillings.
As a Kenyan bank is to ensure we have the right specialists across the subsectors that George has mentioned. That enables us then to map the whole of Kenya and be able to target opportunities wherever they sit. If it's a dairy area, then we're able to deploy specialists to support our farmers in terms of financial capacity.
The reduction in net loans and advances to customers in 2024 pushed down Equity Group's total assets from 1.82 trillion shillings in 2023 to 1.8 trillion shillings in 2024. Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Well, still on business matters or financials, where the Kenya Insurance Corporation has reported a 4.4 billion shillings in full-year net profit that was driven by 333.6% growth in insurance services to 3 billion shillings. The listed reinsurer has proposed a dividend payout of 15% per share.
The total insurance revenue by Eastern and Central Africa's oldest reinsurer in 2024 dipped 4% to 18.85 billion shillings. Despite this, insurance service result grew by 336% from 680 million shillings in 2023 to 2.95 billion shillings. In addition, total investment income increased 23% to 5.61 billion shillings in 2024. This was despite the operating expenses increasing 7% to 1.36 billion shillings. Overall, Kenya Reinsurance 2024 full-year net profit was 4.44 billion shillings, representing a 10.8% decrease from 4.97 billion shillings registered in 2023. This was mainly on account of the reinsurer booking a net foreign exchange loss of 1.7 billion shillings in 2024 as compared to a net foreign exchange profit of 1.4 billion shillings in 2023. Despite the reduced net profit, the asset base marginally increased from 65.98 billion shillings in 2023 to 66.8 billion shillings. This pushed up the shareholders' funds by 3% to 49.67 billion shillings. Frederick Muki for Prime Edition.
On now to coffee farming, where at least 30,000 coffee farmers in Kenya are set to earn a premium for their produce after gaining coffee traceability skills under a 420 million shillings project by the Italian government. The three-year project targeted coffee farmers from 7 counties who were also trained on sustainable farming practices.
Unavailable traceability mechanisms and obsolete coffee production practices have negatively affected what farmers earn in the international market. As such, the Arabica project targets to address these emerging challenges.
That Arabica has achieved significant results. Just to mention one, the creation of 7 new Kenyan coffee brands, 1 for each participating county. This represents a strategic step towards giving Kenyan coffee a strong and distinctive identity.
During the 3-year period, the 420 million shillings project helped to map 30,481 coffee growers, a move that enhanced traceability of their produce, leading to increased earnings from about 65 shillings per kilo to 85 shillings per kilogram.
So this project has also been very, very good because the farmers now, as they market their coffee, as they create visibility for their own cooperatives and their own coffee, they have also had moments where they have tested their own coffee.
The Arabica project supported the enhancement of coffee quality assessment at farm and cooperative levels, strengthened coffee campaign and quality control capacity. In addition, it deepened adoption of climate-smart and sustainable farming practices and improved quality processing while conserving resources like water, labor, and electricity.
We distributed to the farmers, we equipped actually 7 laboratories for coffee tapping, 1 per county, either with the county government or with the union of cooperatives. And we distributed 7 eco-pulpers, 1 per county again, which are processing machines which are environmentally friendly.
The project, which was implemented in collaboration with the Coffee Research Institute, targeted farmers in the counties of Bungoma, Machakos, Embu, Meru, Nyeri, Murang'a, and Kiambu.
Elsewhere, tea farmers across the country have been advised to adopt improved tea varieties that can withstand drought and adapt to different weather conditions to boost productivity and resilience. The Tea Research Institute has generated 62 tea clones suitable for different weather conditions in the 24 tea-growing counties in Kenya.
At the Tea Research Institute in Kericho, players in the agriculture industry congregate for the Agricultural Expo, where tea farmers were shown sustainable farming technologies, tea development, and climate-smart agricultural solutions. Tea Research Institute has developed 62 tea clones tailored for various climatic conditions across Kenya's 24 tea-growing counties. Before the varieties are released to farmers, rigorous adaptability trials are conducted in tea farms on both the eastern and western sides of the Rift Valley to evaluate yield and quality.
So we teach farmers on how to establish and how to bring up tea in a very organic manner. We can say our tea is highly organic, yes.
The expo also featured agricultural innovations field demonstrations, expert discussions on industry challenges, and engagement with policymakers, researchers, and private sector stakeholders.
We also use these tea varieties in terms of product diversification for processing of black tea, green tea, white tea, purple tea, oolong teas, and we have also used these teas to process other non-tea products.
Kenya remains one of the world's leading tea exporters, and adopting climate-resilient varieties is seen as a crucial step in maintaining the sector's competitiveness amid shifting weather patterns.
And now to the ongoing trade tiff between Kenya and Sudan, where senators are calling for talks between Kenya and Sudan to resolve a ban on export of Kenyan tea to the North Eastern African country. Senator Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism Chair Issa Juma Boy says Sudan imports about 10% of Kenyan tea, making it the third largest market for the Kenyan produce. He says the impasse with Sudan may occasion a pileup of unsold produce at the Mombasa tea auction.
Chai nyingi ilikuwa ikaenda Sudan. Sasa hii Sudan wamevikwa vikwazo kwamba chai haiendi kule. Lakini pia tumezungumza na tumekaa chini kama kamati, tutazungumza na pia katika wiki ijayo tutakaa kama kamati tuweze kufanya kama ni statement, tuweze kuuliza waziri namna gani tuweza kufungua hii njia na zile chai ambazo zimebakia, kwa sababu kuna chai nyingi ambazo kwa zimenunuliwa ziko kwenye bahari haziwezi kuingia Sudan. Kuna chai nyingine ambazo zimenunuliwa ziko kwenye auction hapo ambazo haziwezi kutoka.
Ingawa sisi ni nchi ambayo tunasalisha chai nyingi, chai yetu nyingi tunauza ikiwa bulk without value addition. Zile nchi zingine kama India, China na Pakistan, Sri Lanka na wengine wanafanya karibu 50% ya chai yao wanaifanyia value addition.
Kupitia star 570 hash tunakupa nafasi ya kuchomoka na this beautiful Mazda Demio. Enjoy a beautiful clean semi-leather interior, low mileage, fuel efficient 1300cc engine, great for personal use and business. Ukitaka kujishindia gari hii, kucheza ni rahisi sana. Chukua simu yako, bonyeza star 570 hash, chagua option 3. And for only 35 shillings, hii gari inaweza kuwa yako. Kumbuka kucheza mara kadhaa, because the more you play, the higher chances of wewe kuwa mshindi.
Mungu ni mwema, asante Mungu. Ile nitakuwa naendesha hivi.
Dial star 570 hash and make this dream car yours.
Cheza Loto Moto.
Inafaa mletoe pasta au aombe mutakaswe au mwage maji ya baraka nuksi ziishe.
Jackie, sisi enemies wetu tunawajua.
Well, try me. Just keep off. Then wacha mimi na mzaa yetu sote mambo yetu kando.
Jackie, can you be trusted? Na wewe na Alex mmekuwa
Vijana wangu.
Harusi tunayo, hatuna magazine.
Wewe unajua nafurahia hapa na hata jani proposea bado.
Maxine Yolanda. Will you marry me? Jackie. We only have 1 week.
Mtu ana blackmailiwa kozie ni accomplice wa mada. Hana hata pesa kupeana. Sasa anataka kulipa mali.
That's why I'm telling you, tafuta dema kuna ganji bana.
Unaona vile mtoto analia alafu watu wanakuambia nyamaza. Sisi wakati yeye alilia, the first cry, tulitoa machozi.
Neurological conditions si uchawi. Hawajarogwa. Neurological conditions or disability haiambukizani, maana si ugonjwa.
If I tell them happy like man, lona ako sawa, you know, ako tuna challenges zake but ako sawa. You hear people say angekuwa ng'ombe tungemchinja.
Differently.
A very good evening to you. Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's now talk sports. Now, Kenya increased its medal tally to 4 at the ongoing World Masters Athletics Indoor Championships in Gainesville, Florida, when Regina Mulathia bagged a silver in the long jump W45 category event with a leap of 5.24 meters. The gold medal went to Melissa Foster from Australia, while Olutoyin Augustus of Nigeria won the bronze. Kenya's quest for more medals continues today, with Daniel Kimeli Tanui taking part in the discus throw M60 category, while the sprint duo of Elizabeth Muthoka and Millicent Ndoro will be battling it out in the 200 meters, M50 and M35 respectively. Shot putter Peter Kamau Mwangi won Kenya's first gold medal at the games with a throw of 14.79 meters, while Francis Kipkoech Bowen won gold in the men's 3,000 meters as Ibrahim Makonjo Muya clinched silver in the 60-meter dash. The World Athletics Masters Indoor Championship, which comes to a close on Sunday, has attracted 4,000 participants drawn from 80 countries. The National Olympics Committee of Kenya's Secretary General Francis Mutuku has officially announced that he will be vying for the top seat in NOC, the presidency in this year's elections slated for the 24th of April this year. Now, speaking during his presidential bid launch in Nairobi, the outgoing NOC Secretary General noted that if given the opportunity to lead, he will implement the use of technology in advancement of sports, which will lead to positive results. He also added that he will give more opportunities to women in sports and ensure inclusion of all stakeholders. Mutuku also promised to prioritize athletes' welfare and expand Olympic representation. The current NOC president, Paul Tergrat, will not be on the ballot after successfully completing his 2 terms.
I'm a strong believer in service. I'm a strong believer in that we need to change our country. We complain a lot of times. They normally say if you want to pick a conversation with a Kenyan, complain about something. And if you're sitting in matatu, hizi barabara siku hizi, hao watu, you pick a conversation very fast because of a complaint. But you also feel that people should be able to change the narrative of our country. And today, I stand here ready to change the narrative of the country in terms of what leadership is.
Moving on, Football Kenya Federation has launched investigations into match-fixing allegations against Kakamega Homeboys goalkeeper Patrick Matasi. Now, in a video widely circulated on social media on Thursday, Matasi is perceived to be in a conversation with individuals seemingly keen on manipulating a match. FKF, in a communique sent to newsrooms, said that they have begun investigations in collaboration with the World Soccer Governing Body FIFA and the Confederation of African Football CAF in conjunction with Kenyan authorities. FKF promises to take appropriate action once the findings are out and called for anyone with information to assist with the investigation. 37-year-old Patrick Matasi began his football career with the defunct West Kenya Sugar before playing for several Kenya Premier League clubs, including AFC Leopards, Posta Rangers, Tusker FC, and Ethiopia's St. George. He recently joined Kakamega Homeboys from Kenya Police FC and has featured for the national soccer team Harambee Stars 31 times. And those were all the sports stories we had for you tonight. I'll see you tomorrow on Easy Friday. Good night for now. My name is Karen Kibet. Right after this short break, my colleague O'Brien Kimani will be back with more. Don't go too far.
Jet A1, cheza aviator bila data, bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Aviator bila data, aviator bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Light physical activity after iftar can greatly benefit your digestion and overall well-being. Simple activities like a leisurely walk, gentle stretching, or engaging in light household chores can help improve digestion and prevent feelings of heaviness and discomfort. Remember, it's all about balance. Moderate activity can enhance your Ramadan experience without overexerting yourself.
Well, we've taken you to the world of sports, the world of politics, and of course the world of business. And time now for our interview of the day. And today we're talking about enhancing land under irrigation in Kenya. And that is coming at the tail end of this bulletin, which is right now. Well, thank you so very much indeed for joining us tonight. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again on Thursday next week. But before I sign off, Kenya targets to increase the acreage under irrigation from the current 776,000 acres to 1.2 million acres by the year 2027 by leveraging data or large dams as well as household and community water harvesting program. The National Irrigation Authority Chief Executive Officer Charles Moche says among irrigation projects lined up is the 37 billion shillings Galana Dam in Kilifi and Tana River counties. Mwasia sat down with our reporter Karen Jenga, and now she's going to share with us part of that interview. Otherwise, enjoy the viewing. Bye now.
Kenya's irrigation sector plays a crucial role in ensuring food security, improving agricultural productivity, and also mitigating the impact of climate change. National Irrigation Authority has been leading the efforts to expand the irrigation infrastructure as well as improve water resource management and also integrate modern technology into irrigation systems. Tonight, we talk about the irrigation sector with the CEO himself, Engineer Charles Moche, who is joining us tonight to look at the mandate of the National Irrigation Authority as well as the status of the irrigation sector in the country. Welcome to the program, Engineer Charles.
Thank you, Warimo.
Now we start off with the mandate of the National Irrigation Authority before we look at the status of the irrigation sector in the country.
The main, the main role and actually why the National Irrigation Authority does exist is to provide and ensure there is irrigation infrastructure in this country to be able to provide water for production. What I'll tell you is that, 85% or thereabout of this country is ASAL. That means the amounts of rainfalls which are received across the whole of this landmass in Kenya cannot sustain irrigation farming. So our main role is to make sure that we harness the water, undertake, construction, development of the irrigation systems so that we are able to convey the water so that the farmers can engage in production and farming with an ultimate goal of course, ensuring food security in this country, which has been very elusive, evasive, And I'll tell you that in the last year alone, the food imports were in the excess of 500 billion Kenya shillings. And this is what we want to do so that we can cut down on these imports in this country.
Okay. And what is the current status of the irrigation sector, and also what is the land under irrigation?
Currently, what we have under irrigation is about 700,076 acres. That is under irrigation farming. And in the short term, in the next 4 years or thereabout, based on our strategic plan, we want to push that on a bit up to about 1 million. So we are talking of targeting to move from what we have now, about 776, to about 1 million acres in the next 4 years, ultimately to about 1.2 million acres.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is incorporated in the recent investment plan that you launched.
Yes.
You're targeting to raise about 598 billion shillings. How are you going to raise those funds, and also how will the investment, or rather the guide of the investment plan?
When you look at the NISIP, there are 5 key distinct pathways. And I think 3 of those pathways are very distinct on how we intend to, to attract and, get financing from the private sector. And one of those, when you talk of the first pathway, that is FLEED. FLEED, we are talking of blended finance. And I think we have been doing this. We have already running program in Mount Kenya, whereby we are partnering with the Equity Bank, whereby farmers give 50%. Then the government also gives 50% in terms of a loan. So in terms of actualizing, we intend to partner with the farmers, whereby we on board and we bring on, financiers who can support the farmers. Then the farmers can also now contribute and also, engage in infrastructure development. Then when you look at the issue of now construction and engagement in big mega projects, we are talking of now partnering with the private sector and attracting financing. And these are like now the PPP models, whereby we attract financing from the investors. They bring their finance, construct the infrastructure, operate the systems, and of course they recoup their cost of investment.
Okay. With the plan that you've just talked about, how many acres are you planning to put under irrigation, both in the short and the long term?
NISIP per se, from the very initial target, we are looking at about 1 million acres. So that we move from the current, 776 to about 1.7 million. But ultimately, based on the potentials which we have with water harvesting, we can go up to 3 million. It's a mixture of all, the models you can employ. First of all, we are talking of blended finance, what we call FLEED, because it's farmer-led irrigation, development. And whereby now we are talking of farmers contributing and also the government also supporting the same systems. Then now we look at a system whereby it's a kind of a PPP framework, whereby now, investors come on board, they do invest their money, do the infrastructure, then they coup investment from from the proceeds of revenues which have been generated from the systems. That way, of course, they will be able to recoup their part of investment. Then the infrastructure is there, and we can engage in irrigation development.
Okay. I'd like to hear from you on the progress of these key irrigation programs that you're being implemented under your authority. We have Mwea, we have Bura, there are a number. I'd like you to give us each the status updates.
Let me start with Galana, because we are known for Galana, and I think it's a project which now we have managed to get back on track. Already Galana, we already have an investor who has come on board to do production. And we have agreed, together with the partnership with ADC, we have a lease agreement where we have leased about 40,000 acres. And actually, starting this April, they are going to commence production on the area which is already under infrastructure of about 10,000 acres. So that is starting straight away from April this year. Then additionally, I think we are also now looking into ways in which we can do a dam. And we have plans at an advanced stage to attract, financing from the private sector so that we can do a Galana Dam. Galana Dam is about 300 or thereabout million cubic meters of water. And with it, we are going to put about 200,000 acres under irrigation. And once that is actualized, actually, we are looking at a scenario whereby we are going to cut so much in terms of maize deficit in this country. Then from there we go to Bura. Bura, of course.
Let me stay with Galana for a bit.
Yes.
Whether they are local or foreign investors, and when it comes to the leasing years, what numbers are we talking about?
Okay, the farm is Selu, which is local, I would want to say that. And in terms of the leasing period, the PPP Act is 30 years initially, which of course can be extended. Yes.
And how much will be invested in the project?
Well, we look at the government capex in terms of what the government has already invested in that project. Is about almost 7 billion Kenya shillings to date. Then you look at the investor is bringing on board an additional 12 billion Kenya shillings to develop an additional 10,000 for a total of about 20,000.
Does this include the Galana Dam?
No, Galana Dam is separate.
Okay.
The total cost of Galana Dam is about 37 billion Kenya shillings, or thereabout. And I think this is what we are saying, we are attracting financing now from the private sector to be able to support this.
Okay.
Yes.
What of Bura Irrigation Scheme? Where are we?
Bura Irrigation Scheme, as you could be aware, is a project which we commissioned. His Excellency the President commissioned the Bura Gravity, last month. And the Bura Irrigation Project has a potential of doing about 176,000 acres, which is really, we call a gazetted area. So in the short term, what we are saying is that with the commissioning of the gravity system, we can straight away put about 40,000 acres under production, and this can be scaled almost up to about 100,000 in the long run. And at the moment, we have already attracted about 3 investors who are coming on board to do rice farming and sugarcane production. But predominantly what we are reserving now for the farmers themselves is the initial about 15,000 acres, just for the farmers, for the local farmers to engage in production. And beyond that now, where the farmers are not able to produce on, is when we are bringing on board now the investors to be able to utilize that, so that we can now probably make higher productivity from the water resource which we have in Bura, rather in the scheme.
What are the timelines?
We are talking of already 2 of them. They are already on the ground. Actually, some equipments have already been imported. And when you look at what we have agreed with them, straight away, I think from next year, they will get in full-scale production. At the moment, they are doing what we call trials, whereby we have allocated each one of them about 700 acres for them to do trial test their technologies, and probably be able to optimize on the production they want to engage on.
Okay.
Yes.
When it comes to Mwea irrigation,
yes,
you talked of rice farming being done at Bura Irrigation Scheme. Are you planning to increase the acreage under rice farming at Mwea?
Mwea already with the Dhiba Dam, which of course we already finished, it's already operating. We have more or less hit the maximum of around 35,000 acres in Mwea Irrigation Scheme. And beyond there, we will need to construct another dam. But that is not in our plans in the short term. What we are planning now is to optimize already the Dhiba Dam, whereby at the moment we have about 30,000. So we would want to finish construction of infrastructure on an additional 5,000 for a maximum of about 35,000. And with this 35,000, we can also be able to do 2 crops in a year. That is about putting about almost 70,000 acres under production. And with Mwea alone, we are looking at a scenario whereby we are getting under production of almost 296,000 metric tons of rice. And with that, of course, the national deficit of about 700,000 metric tons will be making milestones towards, actualizing in terms of bridging this gap.
Earlier on, you talked of integrating modern technology, and you talked of investors right now testing the technology. I'd like to hear how you're incorporating technology in agriculture production in the irrigation master plan.
Great. Now, when you look at the systems predominantly which we are put in Galana, and also we are going to put up in Bura, most of them are called what we call precision irrigation systems. You will find that we are making use of center pivot systems, which most of them you will find a single center pivot can cover up almost up to about 200,000 200 acres, one of them. And that is what we are going to deploy mostly. But now when you look in terms of technology, especially we are benchmarked with, other systems, especially in Egypt, whereby these systems are operating, is that you will employ a lot of technology in terms of operating these systems in terms of water application. So most of the activities will be remote controlled. Those are the kind of technologies the farmers, or rather the producers are coming on board with. In addition, in terms of water use and in terms of efficient systems, you look at us looking into the future in which all the canals probably will be lined. We are going to line them. Then, of course, I'll tell you that with the launch, or rather commissioning of the Bura Gravity, we switched off the gensets, which have been using, diesel fuels. So we are looking at a way in which, in future, we are going to have solar systems still to operate the same pumping stations, so that we can make use of solar and have, environmentally friendly systems operating with us.
Okay. In this whole plan, master plan, how many farmers are you planning to empower with increased irrigation?
Well, when we look at in terms of the targets and in terms of what we are planning, first of all, now in Bura, we will, of course, settle the whole of about 7,000 to 10,000 farmers in Bura. All of them, we are going to settle them in the farm so that they can have some 1, 2, 3, 4 acres for them to undertake in terms of production. Then when we look at in terms of now the investors who are coming on board, we are giving them about 100,000 acres. And when you look in terms of how many people can they employ in terms of farmers, every acre we are talking of employing of about 5 to 10 in terms of labor input. So when you do the maths now, if you put about 100,000, you are talking of almost creating about those number of jobs. That's almost about 5,000 jobs alone in Bura. So that is the effect in terms of the economy. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in a nutshell, you can share with us the status update of the National Expanded Irrigation Program and the Turkana Irrigation Program.
The National Expanded Irrigation Program, we are talking of upwards of about 250 projects, number of distinct projects, which are cut across about 43 counties across this country. And this project alone, we have been able to put about 300,000 acres under irrigation using this program alone. And this is the only program actually which you will find across all the counties in the country. Then when you are talking about Turkana is one of those projects or one of those areas with very massive potential in terms of irrigation. But in the short term, at the moment, we have our what I might call our schemes. We have our Katilu irrigation scheme, which farmers are engaging in production of maize. Then we have Lokubai and Elelea and Mororem irrigation schemes, which are also under production, and they are producing, maize and other crops. So in total in Turkana, when you look at what we have been able to put under irrigation, is about 12,000 acres at the moment. But currently we have Nauros and Nandoto. These are two projects which are ongoing also. They will put an additional 1,000 acres under irrigation. Then Takwel, we have been able to engage a consultant who has been able to come with a master plan or a way forward in terms of using water from the Takwel River and the Takwel Dam. So we are talking of a possibility of putting another additional 30,000 acres under irrigation using the Takwel Dam. Then we also are doing what I will call a master plan to be able to identify other sources of water so that we can be able to put an additional area under irrigation. What I will tell you is that in terms of groundwater, of course, we are still trying to find ways in which we can exploit also the massive groundwater which is in Turkana. Yes.
What's the target for putting acres under irrigation in Turkana?
I could talk about we are targeting now moving from the current what we have around 15,000 to about 30,000. Yeah. In the next, we don't talk of 3-4 years. Yes.
Household and community public irrigation scheme, and other PPP initiatives?
Households, these are water plants which are normally done at household levels with capacities of about 1,000 to 3,000. Normally, these ones are drought mitigation, in terms of interventions, whereby these farmers are able to irrigate at least an acre. And what happens is that they will just provide what we call supplemental irrigation to support farmers in 1 acre. In total, we have harvested about 34 million cubic meters of water using this program, and our target is to go all the way up to around 125 million cubic meters of water in the long run. So the other one is Ola, which is actually very close to, it's in Tana River, very close to Bura. We have about a potential of about 12,000 acres. We also normally grow their maize and rice. Then, of course, there's the Pekera in Baringo. This is a project where we do as a lot of productivity in terms of seed maize. And, in this country, we are working with Kenya Seed. We have about 3,500 acres under production. Then we have the Aero irrigation scheme in Kisumu. This one, we also grow rice. In total, we have a potential of about 15,000 acres, which we have developed around that area. Then there is the West Kano, also very close to the shores of Lake Victoria, another capacity of about 12,000 in terms of production. Then from there, we go to Bunyala. Bunyala is in Busia. It's one of those other public schemes where we have put in, currently we have about 3,000 acres under rice farming. Is one of those projects which we are going to expand under the Lower Nzoia irrigation project, which will be done by September this year. With that done, we'll expand that project to about 10,000 acres in Busia and also now in Siaya, a bit of rice farming.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in a policy aimed at making irrigation schemes more sustainable, there's a proposal to increase scheme fees to make it more sustainable. I'd like to hear from you, how will this affect farmers?
I would want to say is actually operation and maintenance fee. And when you look at it and you look at the current fee which farmers are paying and the way in terms of inflation, in terms of the cost, how things have changed out here, it is no longer tenable and sustainable to continue with the current fees as they are. What we have done is that we have done what we call a lot of community and farmer consultation and participation and engagements, and we have left it to them. Because what I want to indicate is that O&M fee, which is normally charged to the farmers, this is a fee which goes directly to the farmers. It does not come to the books of the National Irrigation Authority. Farmers and the minister. And I think what they have told us, it is no longer attainable, it is not sufficient for them to engage in operation and maintenance. Now, we leave it to the farmers themselves to decide, and I think in some schemes they have already agreed, especially the schemes in Western Kenya. They have more or less agreed on fees, but we are still yet to engage farmers very actively in Mwea and also in Bura for them to be able to agree to the fee. But one thing I would want to mention is that National Irrigation Authority, when you look at all the schemes, we are the ones who have been paying for the diesel in terms of water supply. I've been spending about 10 million Kenya shillings in Ola every month, and also in Bura every month before the project was commissioned. But now we are remaining with Ola in terms of support, and now the other projects in Western Kenya. So we want to believe the best way to go for sustainability is for the farmers to be able to support and the systems to be able to be self-sustaining, so that we don't continue using the exchequer to support the farmers in production.
What is the proposed fee?
Well, I think we have figures which are cutting across. When you look at Bura, what we had proposed is about 5,000, 5,000 Kenya shillings in a production cycle. So it is ranging between 5,000 to 8,000 in Mwea because of the double crop aspect, where they pay initially 5,000, then an additional 3,000 because of the double crop.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what would be the role of farmers' cooperatives in the investment plans that you have?
The cooperatives now are very key, because you see, these are the avenues. And one of the challenges where our farmers have been having a bit of problems is in terms of marketing. So we are looking at the cooperatives coming on board to organize the farmers so that they can be able to, connect them with the market, and the farmers are able to sell the produce. then that way, you know, we don't have a challenge with the availability of market. And also farmers having stocks, you know, all in stocks in their stores, which are attracting, and even I think in terms of losses, which could continue attracting losses. So we look at a scenario where we have very organized marketing frameworks in place through these cooperatives. Yeah, with farmers.
Okay, at the beginning of the interview, you talked of cutting our import bill. From your estimation, from where you sit, how much will we cut our food import through increased irrigation?
Well, I think, first of all, we'd want to wipe the whole of it in the long run. But I think when we give ourselves in terms of targets, so could we talk of just cutting it by half in the next 4 years? And the current administration first term, then eventually, ultimately, in the second term, then we wipe it all of it, so that by the time we hit 2030, 2031, we are not majorly importing, predominantly the major, what I call food security crops. And this one I'm referring to maize, which we have no reason to continue importing maize. We have no reason to continue importing, you know, rice, and also the oil crops. Because the plans which we are putting in place even in Galana, and where we are going to engage the private investors, we're also going to bring on board, you know, the production of oil crops.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you planning to enroll more private players in investing in the traditional schemes?
Well, I think what we have done, we've left it open to the investors in terms of where there are opportunities. And when you look at our schemes, the biggest potential for investors now is in Bura. But I think when you look at it now with also now Galana coming on board, we have a lot of potential also there in Galana in terms of investments. Yes, yes.
When you look at the policy and the legislative changes, are there any changes that are needed to enhance irrigation development in Kenya?
I think when you look at the Act and in terms of even what the investors are asking for, because one of the things they ask me is that, do you have a balance sheet, you know, for us to be able to enter into an agreement, look at your books and evaluate, and that's be a little bit comfortable. So we are looking at a scenario whereby the National Irrigation Authority, also through the Act, also is given the mandate also to engage in bulk water sales, such that we can be able to develop the, you know, the dams in partnership, in collaboration with the investors, and be able to make them be assured that we can be able to repay through sales, the water sales. And eventually, us, of course, we are the ones now to sell to the investors who, you know, get the water. Then eventually now us, we pay you, we pay the investors. Yes.
Okay. As we come to a close, we have the budget 2025-2026 coming up. Are you looking at increased budgetary allocation?
Actually, the main issue now is to attract money from the private sector, the private capital rather. And I think with the plans which are in place, I want to believe, and with all these, you know, elaborate, you know, measures we are taking, the number of, you know, investors who have expressed interest, we are going to attract a lot of that in terms of infrastructure development. In terms of the exchequer, yes, of course, there is what we have continued to receive. But nevertheless, I think we do appreciate the competing, you know, the competing demands in this country. So we want to focus more now on the private capital. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Engineer Charles.
Yes,
well,
thank you so much.
That is where we put a cap on tonight's interview. As you've heard from the engineer himself, Kenya has about 700,000 acres under irrigation, and they're planning to increase that to about 1 million acres under irrigation in the next 4 years. My name is Irene Mojenga. We take you back to studio.
Inuka na loto moto sasa kwa star 570 hash option ya 4 kuna kashamba juja na nika 50 by 100 worth 1.7 million Kenyan shillings. Na hii si shamba tu, iko kwa prime location few minutes from Juja Town. Stima yako iko ndani, na kama ni development, rapid and so promising. Na mambo ya landlord, mwisho wa mwanzo ni hapa. Ukishinda hili shamba, tunakuongeza 1 million Kenyan shillings ujijengee nyumba yako kwa shamba yako. Kuinuka na Loto Moto ni kucheza sasa hivi kupitia *570# option ya 4 au register deposit na ucheze sasa hivi kwa www.tushinde.com na ujishindie shamba hili na addition of 1 million Kenyan shillings. Inuka na Loto Moto!
Imekuwa ngumu kwake. Watoto wako wanataka chakula, hawezi pata kwa urahisi kwa sababu baba ni mgonjwa. Mimi pia sina cha kufanya, ni hiyo ndio tuko tunamtegemea, lakini hawezi fanya kazi ngumu kwa sababu hiyo mkono yake imefura, imemweka chini, yani kila kitu imemlemea.
Unamsikianga huruma kama bibi yake?
Nasikia huruma sana kwake.
Ni uchungu. Inakuwa uchungu. Kwanza ni uchungu mahali ilianza huko nyuma. Huko naye ni uchungu tu kidogo tu. Mtu akiguza naye tu ni uchungu, lakini imefura tu hivi. Najifunga kwa nyuma. Ndio tena mimi naibika sana. Naibika.
The rest of my life. My sister happened to go to her friend's place for a sleepover.
Yeah.
And she had gone there for a sleepover as well.
Then from there, you see everything was flowing. They're like, you see that pulling, and I'm like, oh my God, what's this? What's this?
What's so special about that specific date?
He knows how to treat a woman.
Oh, really?
It made me feel so special, like the princess.
Are you not thinking this man is moving too fast? Is it not scaring you?
I was.
Yeah.
But again, you see with the qualities,
Yeah.
you are like, asichukuliwe na mwingine nikapoteza bahati.
Who's most likely to forget an important date?
Hassan.
Yeah. Who's most likely to win an argument?
You're making me blush.
Oh, no.
For the rest of my life, I'll be with you. I'll stay by your side. Differently.
Unaona vile mtoto analia alafu watu wanakuambia nyamaza. Sisi wakati yeye alilia, the first cry, tulitoa machozi.
Neurological conditions si uchawi. Hawajarogwa. Neurological conditions or disability haiambukizani, maana si ugonjwa.
If I tell them happy like Lona ako sawa, ako tu na challenges zake but ako sawa. You hear people say angekuwa ng'ombe tungemchinja.
Differently.
Today's conversation is on understanding the autism spectrum disorder.
Autism is a condition that usually affects the development of speech and language skills.
He had some he was behaving like a loner.
Yeah.
You know, language was not developing, and now he had gone quiet.
He would communicate by pointing whatever it is that he wanted. Then he would really keep to himself.
Then all of a sudden, if she was taking corners in the house, she would close her eyes, then gauge what's the lighting in that room before she opened her eyes. Then she went mute on us.
To encourage parents to focus on early intervention.
So please don't walk this journey alone.
At the end of it all, they are first and foremost children who grow up to be awesome adults.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan is a spiritual month, but also a time of cultural and culinary celebration. Many households prepare deep-fried, sugary and processed foods, which can lead to sluggishness, fluctuating moods and weight gain when consumed excessively. To stay energized, choose balanced meals which contain protein, fiber and healthy fats. Plan your meals wisely.
Hello, good people. This Save a Life, the only show